We're still on depression as it relates to the soul and forces. Depression is not an invention of the human mind. I've heard many people say this to me. They've said it to me before I was a chaplain. They've said it to me when I was a chaplain. They've said it to me when I was a scientist. They said it to me when I was an anthropologist. So what I've realized is that people speak without actually studying living experiences. People speak without actually reading textbooks. We live in a world now where hearsay has become more powerful than facts, and that's why my show is termed empirical evidence, because I base it on facts. Depression is not an invention of the mind. It's a recognition of energy or chemical connections or disconnections. A powerful person can be broken by repetitive cycles. Being broken it's a feeling. Because when we speak of people being broken, we're usually not talking about someone being broken in half. We're not speaking on literal terms. We're speaking philosophically. When we say someone is broken, it means they're not moving towards their highest potential that we know they can move towards. So we say it looks as if, it appears as if he or she is broken. Or the person himself may say, I'm broken, and someone doesn't understand them, but that's what it means. It means that I've had enough, so many energy cycles of negativity or hostility that I don't have enough energy to realign myself. I've lost my sense of meaning or purpose. Being broken is a very hard state to be in, and unless you've experienced it, it's very hard to understand. It's almost a feeling of being drained of all the enthusiasm, the optimism that you brought into your own life. When a person experiences the hostile forces of the real world and supernatural world too often, the brain reorganizes itself. It does. The brain reorganizes itself to protect the seed of the Spirit, the seed of the holiest Spirit. I didn't say Holy Spirit, I said holiest Spirit, meaning the positive sense of self-love. Because when you self-love, you want to live. So the brain reorganizes to protect the essential seed of life. When this happens, that a person is broken, the chemistry of hope or the mental chemistry is offset inside the mind or soul. It's different degrees of offset. It's like a thermometer. Sometimes the temperature is at 90, and then other times it's turned down to frigid cold. You don't know where this person is inside their mind at that time. It's important to have a little bit of empathy and a little bit of patience. The person needs to talk, but they first have to know what they want to talk about, and they have to meet the person that they can talk to about these issues. The person who is depressed is forced off balance by forces or power greater than those within them. So depression is not something people wake up and choose for themselves. It's an experience of an energy shift inside the person. It can happen for many reasons. It can happen because the person's spirit is not developed. It can happen because the forces outside the person, meaning all the alliances that have lined up, are greater than that person's inner power. Or it can be that the forces outside are so hostile that the person's life is in danger. In either case, the need to survive is a part of the spiritual makeup of human beings, and the brain reorganizes itself from receiving this energy that has come at it for a very long time. Think about it this way. In a system of slavery, the slaves had to reorganize the way that they chose the path of self-growth. Hostile forces were continually coming at them. I didn't mention which slave, I didn't say any slave. There's slavery in many systems in the world. Human trafficking is slavery. Physical slavery into the transatlantic world is also human trafficking. Men being prostituted in countries for tourism is also a form of slavery so that these men can feed their families. It happens in certain parts of India. It happens in the Latin American regions, which includes the Caribbean. The Caribbean is a part of Latin America. Slavery, in systems of slavery, what happens is that the human spirit recognizes an evil force. It recognizes that something is draining the potential of life, the potential to be in harmony with a community and be embraced. These things can cause depression. So again, the person's forced off balance by powers greater than those within the person. You're pushed off a bridge, to use a very ugly metaphor. What causes a person to be off balance? Well, as the example I gave to make the abstract more concrete, tries to reflect spiritual violence causes a person to be off balance. Spiritual violence can be against the self or it can be against others. Spiritual violence causes people to be off balance. Off balance itself is caused by mental or emotional violence. Again, that sounds a little strange, but think of it this way. It's a vibration. Someone who is not prepared, if someone's taken martial arts and they're not prepared for a punch, and they cut a punch coming right at them, what ends up happening? They feel the force. We are made up of energy, and hostile energy can shove a person off a bridge metaphorically. Means it resets the internal vibrations. So violence, what is it? It's the force of antagonism or friction. Violence is a force of antagonism or friction. There's no such thing as a world free of violence. But as spiritual beings, we have the capacity to create harmony by minimizing friction and minimizing antagonism. We do this by expanding our hearts and expanding our minds. We do this by recognizing other communities, recognizing their needs, and not stealing resources or people that they need in order to thrive, in order to live. Not in order to become like gods, but in order to live, to meet basic sustenance, to be a part of something bigger, to be embraced, to be loved, to see smiles coming at them, to be questioned mentally and to play in bantering mentally and to grow. When we take these things away from people and their communities, we are engaging alliances with hostile forces, meaning we as people, who, if we steal from people the things they need, we become the devil. We become the antagonistic force. We are the ones destroying the world and the community, not some abstract devil. Does evil exist? Yes, but it exists because we participate with it. So, what causes a person to be off balance? Spiritual violence against the self and against others causes people to be off balance. Off balance is caused by violence, and violence is the force of antagonism or friction. That is a choice. It is a choice to be the force of antagonism. Spiritual violence shows up as dishonesty from people that we gave our trust to. Spiritual violence shows up as hatred from people we gave our trust to. Spiritual violence can be caused by leadership alliance towards someone who violates the principles of their role. So when a person has a specific title and does not live up to basic standards, I will not say the standards they set. There are many standards and no human is perfect. But when they go intentionally against the greater humanity's basic needs, they are violating the principle of their role of leadership. The question is, which humanity are they protecting? Hopefully, it's the global humanity. But we live in a world today where people have lost the global heart and the global eye. And this is also causing spiritual violence and depression. So what causes an off-balancing of energy? The answer is simple. Repeated energy cycles of spiritual violence. You cannot control the entire world, but guess what? You can navigate the forces around you that are filled with spiritual violence or the energy of chaos. And by doing that, you can realign your own energy field and become a force of light, truth, peace, justice, the ideals of being in harmony with your environment and at peace with your neighbor, who is, as long as they are at peace with you. I'll give you 5 examples of energy disruption cycles that are spiritual violence.